Is the IMF killing Ukraine's economy? Was Ukraine provoking Russia in the Kerch Strait? And did the UN Maritime Tribunal adopt an illegitimate decision about Ukrainian POWs in Russia? Welcome to StopFake, the place where we debunk Russian disinformation about Ukraine. I'm Marko Suprun with this week's Set the Record Straight digest. So let's get debunking. Russian and Ukrainian media were busy this week disseminating claims made by Ukrainian Member of Parliament Vadim Rebinovich, who said that the International Monetary Fund is no partner for Ukraine and that all negotiations with the IMF are aimed at destroying Ukraine's economy. In an interview on Ukraine's television channel 112, Rebinovich said that the IMF is not a partner for Ukraine, but rather its financial doctor who has been treating the country for nearly 5 years. As a result of this, we have completely killed the economy. We are a hopeless pit of debt, which means that the doctor is a charlatan. The International Monetary Fund and Ukraine are preparing a new aid program to be ready after snap parliamentary elections in July. Since Russia's annexation of Crimea and invasion of eastern Ukraine in 2014, the IMF has supported Ukraine's war-scarred economy with several Aid for Reforms programs. The IMF monitors countries' economic policies and financial changes to safeguard financial stability and prevent crises in the international monetary and financial systems. The fund makes recommendations to its 189 member countries, fosters policies that promote economic stability, reduce vulnerability to economic and financial crises, with a view towards raising living standards. Ukraine signed a memorandum with the IMF in February 2015. Without IMF funds, Ukraine would be unable to pay off its external debts and stabilize the exchange rates, experts have said. The reform program is aimed at restoring macroeconomic stability, promoting sustainable growth, and strengthening economic governance and transparency. As a result, in 2015, Ukraine's GDP growth was minus 9.8%. This year, it is a positive 2.7%. If Ukraine did not cooperate with the IMF, the level of its economic development would most likely be lower, as the IMF provides not only credits, but also technical assistance, in particular, the drafting of legislation and regulations. The last two cooperation programs with the IMF were designed to overcome the consequences of the large-scale economic crisis that unfolded in 2014 and 2015 due to a significant decline in production that resulted from Russia's aggression in eastern Ukraine. Several pro-Kremlin publications declared that the United Nations Maritime Tribunal issued a wrongful decision regarding Russia's seizure of Ukrainian naval vessels and sailors in the Kerch Strait in November of 2018. Russia does not recognize the United Nations Tribunal's jurisdiction and considers the court action to be illegitimate. The International Court for the Law of the Sea issued a ruling on May 25 that said Russia must release the Ukrainian sailors and ships it seized last November in the Kerch Strait. The incident produced an avalanche of fake news in Russian media. Russia refused to take part in the tribunal's hearing and intends to ignore the court's ruling. Russia insists the UN tribunal has no jurisdiction to rule in this case. The Kremlin claims that when Ukraine and Russia ratified the Convention on the Law of the Sea, it was stipulated that the UN tribunal could not deal with any disputes related to hostilities. The snag lies in the fact that the court agreed with Ukraine's position that the passage of ships through the Kerch Strait was a security operation to patrol the borders and has nothing to do with Russia's military confrontation with Ukraine. And that is why the International Court for the Law of the Sea has every power to adjudicate this case. Moreover, the International Court rejected Russia's justification for seizing the Ukrainian ships. Russia insists that the incident was a secret provocation operation engineered by Ukraine. The tribunal, however, believes that, based on available evidence, a secret Ukrainian invasion was unlikely. Ukraine acted in accordance with international norms and rules of navigation. In an effort to buttress their claim that the court's decision is illegitimate, Russia asserts that the Kerch Strait ceased belonging to Ukraine after Russia annexed Crimea. Now, this claim is false according to several international and bilateral Ukrainian-Russian agreements, which StopFake has debunked in the past. Ukrainian Deputy Foreign Minister Olena Zerkal said Ukraine is dispatching the appropriate diplomatic note to Russia stipulating how Ukraine can repossess its captured ships and when Ukrainian consuls can pick up its captured seamen. One of the Kremlin fake factory's favorite tropes is to brand Russian attacks a Ukrainian provocation. And last week, Russian media started pushing that narrative in reporting on the seizure of 3 Ukrainian naval vessels in November 2018. They started beating the provocation drum right after the UN Maritime tribunal ruled that Russia must immediately release the 24 Ukrainian sailors and 3 Ukrainian naval vessels it captured last year. This latest outburst comes on the heels of a claim filed by ousted President Viktor Yanukovych's former deputy chief of staff, Andrei Portnov. Portnov accused former President Petro Poroshenko of staging a provocation in order to introduce martial law in Ukraine and thus cancel presidential elections. RT called Portnov's claim payback for Poroshenko's provocation and claimed there was every reason to bring him to justice, but that it's unlikely the case would actually proceed. The text of Portnov's claim on Ukraine State Bureau of Investigation website alleges that key political figures abused their office and committed criminal offenses aimed at overthrowing the constitutional system. His claim centers on the events of November 25, 2018, when Russian naval forces rammed, fired on, and then seized 3 Ukrainian ships heading through the Kerch Strait to the Ukrainian port of Berdyansk. Several Ukrainian soldiers were wounded during the attack. Russia said the Ukrainian ships were in Russian Federation waters. However, a 2003 bilateral treaty between Russia and Ukraine regulates the use of the Kerch Strait and the Sea of Azov and designates both as internal waters of both countries. Several countries and international organizations have spoken out against Russia's actions in the Kerch Strait, which have escalated tensions and led to increased militarization in the region. That's it for this week. You can find much more dissected disinformation on the StopFake website. Be vigilant, look out for fakes, and if you spot any disinformation about Ukraine, forward it to us for a truth autopsy. I'm Marko Suprun, and this is StopFake. Thanks for watching.